The Le Mans Classic with Richard Mille and EFG Bank.
Le Mans Classic, powered by RadioLeMans.com.
Hello everybody and welcome to MotorsTV's coverage of Le Mans Classic. I'm John Hindhaugh and sorry, I got distracted by a beautiful Ferrari. Can't help it, can you, when you're walking through the paddock here at Le Mans. This is the 5th version of the Le Mans Classic, every 2 years of course, and we're celebrating everything that's great and good about classic motoring. The best news is that the 400 racing cars here aren't just on show, they'll be going out and having some great battles on the full 8.5 mile 24-hour circuit. Add to that round about 7,000 cars in the paddocks and the infield from various car clubs, and you've got a wonderful, wonderful event. We'll be having a look at scrutineering in a moment, but first let's get outside into those paddocks and catch some of the atmosphere here at Le Mans.
Well, it's a truly international look around the paddocks. Just about any nation that's ever built a car has got something here that will be out on the track over the weekend. It's not just the metal that represents all of the United Nations of motor racing, it's the drivers as well. As we found out, I had a wander out.
Nils Fredrik Nubleus från Sverige, välkomna till Classic Le Mans 2010.
Viel Spaß und herzliche Grüße aus Le Mans.
I'm from Great Britain and welcome to the Classic Le Mans.
Goedemorgen, Jan Gijzen, Ferrari 275 GTB4. We zijn hier bij de Le Mans Classic.
Hola, mi nombre es Tomás Stoyer de Colombia, bienvenidos a LeMans Classic.
Dobrý den, jmenuji se Mirek Krejza, jsem z České republiky, jsem tady s originálním původním autem Škoda z roku 1949. Vítejte v Le Mans.
Michel Zakour.
طارق محمود مرحبا.
مرحبا نحن من لبنان.
أهلا وسهلا للمان كلاسيك.
Lebanon finishing our look at the different nationalities represented, more than 30 of them around the paddocks of Lesart. So clearly it's a big undertaking and it's gone from strength to strength over the last 10 years. The man behind it is Patrick Peter. He's the man behind the success as well. And he's managed to keep all of these cars that have been around for so long still racing. So let's have a word with Patrick Peter to find out the secret of his success, not only for this year but for the 4 previous editions.
On en est à la 5e édition.
Patrick telling us this is the 5th edition. We've been full for at least the last 2 this year. 408 cars plus 60 reserves. That's 468 racing cars. Now, obviously, the heart of the Le Mans Classic is cars. Drivers come to put their cars in the state that it used to be and race where it should do, down the Unadier, etc. It's the heart of it. But it's clear that for non-enthusiast people, family audience, if you like, it's important to have an easy access. We do have some clubs here, and they're looking at the evolution of the range, of the brand of motor vehicles. It's effectively a huge celebration, a big party to celebrate automobile lovers, mainly but not exclusively vintage automobiles, throughout the whole of the 3-day event.
C'est une grande fête des amoureux de l'automobile, principalement ancienne mais pas exclusivement, pendant 3 jours.
Well, clearly any event of the size of the Le Mans Classic can't exist without sponsors, and we're delighted to say that coming back again is the watch manufacturer Richard Mille.
on est tous rivés par la passion.
And Richard telling us that we're all linked by passion of mechanical things that we found in automobiles and in clocks, the mechanics, the aesthetic dimension, everything that is finished by hand, and that was the case on cars as well in times gone by. He tells us he's got the feeling that even if there are 20th century cars, we still have a foot in the 18th century and maybe one in the 20th or even the 21st, and he really loves that paradox.
Ce sont quand même des voitures du XXe siècle. Mais j'ai parfois l'impression, y compris pour me montre, que j'ai un pied dans le 18e ou 19e siècle et un pied dans le 20e ou 21e siècle. Et j'adore ce paradoxe.
The first part of the week, of course, making sure everything is safe and ready to run. And that means taking all of these fantastic brands down to the scrutineers to pass their practiced eye over this glorious machinery. What's so different about the Le Mans Classic? Here's Richard Mille again, telling us that usually when you get invited to these kind of events, well, you know, it was good, thanks very much, and bye-bye. Here, everyone makes the real effort to say thank you. They want you to know they want to be back. Please don't forget me for the next time. We'll never forget it. It's fabulous. We've heard so much, seen so much, almost surreal as far as the event goes, and that's what the difference is.
On a vu quelque chose de absolument surréaliste.
Kicking things off on the event as far as the social side was concerned, a little cocktail soiree on Thursday evening at the nearby Abbaye de la Paix. Well, to get ourselves into the mood, let's take a look back at the last time we had a Classic Le Mans, and remember it only runs every 2 years, so we have to take ourselves back to 2008 for some memories. The traditional Le Mans start, so much a part of the recreation that has been put together by Patrick Peter and his organisation. And still just as hectic as it ever was. Remember the last time that we saw a Le Mans start was 1969. The cars lined up against the pit wall in 1970 with the drivers already installed in them. The Le Mans Classic, though, has always been about not just showing the cars, but racing them as well, and giving these beautiful old things a run out on this fantastic circuit. This is what they were designed for, this is what they were built for, and it's great to see these machines not just getting dusty in a museum somewhere, but really honouring the people who got them going back in the day and bringing them back out onto the racetrack to do exactly what they were made for. And how lucky was that he didn't hit anything? Just squint slightly, it could take you back 20, 30, 40 or even 60 years. The spirit of Le Mans alive and well at the Le Mans Classic in 2008. So there you are, something to whet your appetites as we remember the last time the Classic was held on the 8.5 mile circuit here at Le Mans back in 2008.
Well, some fantastic footage there from the 2008 event, which of course was the last time we had the Classic here at Le Mans. Only every couple of years. My goodness me, it's come round very quickly. Joining me in our salubrious surroundings on the back of this fantastic Citroën DS. Here's Graham Tyler from RadioLeMans.com. Graham, you were here a couple of years ago. This is my very first time here. Those pictures must have brought back some fantastic memories for you.
It's an amazing event, it really is. I had the good fortune to come to that one and the one before, and I'm so glad to be back. This time feels even bigger, even better. They've reorganised things a little bit, and it's just going to be an amazing weekend. The weather is gorgeous.
And the thing is, wherever you are, and even when we're doing this programme, look what's going on behind us. I mean, look at this Ferrari going round behind us. Just recently, I think that was the one that was sold for about £6 or £7 million.
Yeah, you can't begin to do the numbers, can you? You know, you're just going through the paddocks of competing cars, you've got squillions of pounds worth of cars here. And then, of course, there's all the club areas as well, because this is as much really about the clubs coming along and showing off their road cars and enjoying that ambience as it is necessarily seeing what's happening on the track.
Now, classic events like this are nothing new. But 10 years ago, when this event debuted, it was something a little bit different. And the whole point of it was, Graham, that the guys were actually bringing the cars out to race, and to race in earnest. In the US, some of the events we've seen, they're much more of a show and shine rather than actually bringing the cars out to do what they were built for.
Sure, but by the same token, there are American owners here who've brought their cars across precisely because they want to race them rather than just shine and show them, as you say. But yeah, the racing here has the ability, at least, to be good stuff, because there are cars. Most of the cars here were designed to run in 1,000-mile races in their era on much rougher roads than they're going to be subject to this weekend. And so, theoretically, that should be okay. What's hard for these cars is going to be the conditions, because it is very, very hot.
Yes, I seem to already be leaking just a little bit. Rather unfortunate that you're the first guest on, but
well, thanks, John.
I'm going to, only for you, in that I'm going to ask the same question of everybody, but you've already been around the paddocks this morning, working for RadioLeMans.com, having a look, speaking to some of the owners and drivers. First of all, what sense do you get of what brings people here to, you know, it's a big event, but some of these people have travelled a very long way. What makes them want to do that, and why to come to this event rather than any of the others that we were talking about?
Because it's in Le Mans. Pure and simple. This is the cathedral home of long-distance motor racing. It's been going since 1923. There's a car here which will be running in Plateau 1 this afternoon from that 1923 race. It finished in 14th place back then. And it's going to be here and running again this year. How special is that sort of thing? That can't happen anywhere else.
And Tony Dron is driving that car, I believe. Well-known British motor racing and motoring journalist. OK,
what have you seen that's particularly caught your eye? And that is the unfortunate part of what I was going to ask you, because with 68 cars in each of the 6 plateaux, there's a cornucopia of delights.
Yeah, there's over 400 cars, individual cars we're going to see out on the track. And to begin to pick out favourites at this stage is hugely difficult. So on the spot, I love, because it was in the first year that I came to Le Mans, I love Paul Knapfield's Ferrari 512BB. Going back in time, there are some fabulous D-types here. There are a pair of Works Sunbeam Alpines from 1960 and 1961, side by side under the awning, and they're absolutely immaculate. There's a Citroën 4CV, which is the most unlikely car you ever would see running around here, but it's got an English owner who's found it. It's been restored by a local French company, and it looks absolutely immaculate. So it's variety as much as anything. 4.5 litre blower Bentleys. You could go on, well, we will go on for hours about this.
We talk so much about this being a very English race. Le Semaine Anglais is what the locals around here call it, the English week for the 24 hours. That is sort of reflected in the cars that we're seeing in the paddock, because there's an awful lot of British cars, whether they're owned still by the Brits and raced by the Brits, but there's a lot of them here. And yet, some of the little gems are the things that you've just been talking about, some of the DBs, the Didier Bonnets, and the smaller cars that you can quite easily overlook when you look back into Le Mans history.
Oh yeah, the DBs, the Inaltera, the forerunner of the Rondo, is here. I mean, you know, how many cars do you know named after a painting and decorating company? This was what Inaltera was. It's bizarre, but yeah, the Deutsche Bonnet, as you say, that you know,
Crown V8 and the Crown V12.
But there are cars here from all eras, and there are cars here from all backgrounds, and that's the joy of it. But there is a big British presence here, not only in the paddocks but out in the campsites. Again, if you drive around Le Mans at the moment, virtually every other car you see on the public roads is a British registered one. There's a huge interest in this event over in England.
There are clearly some parallels to be drawn with another event which is very close to where you live in the UK, which is the Goodwood Revival.
Yeah.
Lord March adding that second event to the Festival of Speed, what feels like about 10 years ago now, possibly even a little bit more. And there are some parallels to be drawn in the terms of the military vehicles that are running around as transport for the teams. People are encouraged to get dressed up and in the era of the cars that they're running. And yet, this feels very, very different again.
It is different. It's partly different because of the surroundings, and this is one of the incongruities, perhaps, of this event, because you've got all this fabulous classic machinery running around in a 2010 FIA-sanctioned environment, and it's very difficult to put those two side by side with what you see when you go to Goodwood, because Goodwood as a circuit has been preserved pretty much as it was in period. So what you're seeing is period cars running in period surroundings, and that isn't the same here. But what you are seeing is a classic circuit, and Le Mans is still a classic circuit, and there will be plenty of opportunity for people taking pictures to get the flavour of Le Mans with the old cars without having necessarily to admit that you're in the 21st century.
Yes, and we should make the point as well, of course, that this is the full circuit, because a lot of people you talk to think it's the Bugatti circuit.
No, not at all.
It's not, but it still runs the chicanes, doesn't it?
Yes, they have decided to run the chicanes, I think, to be a little more sympathetic to the machinery. I know it puts strain, we talk about this for the modern cars, putting strain on transmissions and brakes and so on, but in real terms for the cars that are running here now, there won't be such an issue because they're not braking from such massive speeds, although if you talk to the owner of a 4.5 litre blower Bentley, he'll tell you that should do around 170 of Her Majesty's miles per hour down the Mulsanne. And we're told that they don't actually so much stop as slow down. So if you want to actually bring the thing to anything like the speed of a corner, you've got to go down through the box as well. You can't use the brakes alone because they don't work. And that's part of the joy of all this stuff, is seeing how people cope with a modern era circuit in classic cars.
But that brings up another great point, in that a lot of these cars are driven by drivers who we would associate with more modern machinery. Yes, we will see the Atwoods, the Bells, these people coming back, often to be reunited with cars that they've got history with.
Yes.
But also we see contemporary drivers who get caught up in it. Emmanuel Pirot was supposed to be here this weekend. He's not. He's racing in the American Le Mans Series because Lord Drayson has hurt his foot. But people like that who just get caught up in it, and
yeah.
you're just as likely to see in the paddocks around here looking at someone else's car as getting ready, suited and booted to go out and drive their own.
Yeah, this is a fever event, isn't it? And the people who have the fever quite often are the people in the cars. Yeah. So, you know, you've got the Rob Buffs here, Jamie Campbell-Walter is here.
She's not.
Jamie's not here yet. Okay, Sohail Ayari is here. Pedro Lamy is driving. You know, these are people from very much the current era, and yet their love of the sport extends into the historical end of things. And why not? You know, given the chance, talking to Tony Dron earlier, he's driving, as you said, he's driving that car from 1923, and he is so excited about that. You can't believe it.
But it's a piece of real, living, breathing history from the world's greatest motor race.
Yes, it's the car that ran in the very first Le Mans 24 Hours, and that is something that you can't replicate. You can't do it anywhere else, because there's no event that's currently running that's been going as long as consistently as this.
Yes, we could get into a debate about replicating actually as well, and what is a real car
real
and
what's not.
Yeah. You touched on a thorny little subject earlier on, which is the weather. Now, far be it from me ever to complain, and you'll never hear me say ever it's too hot. I'll quite happily melt before I'll say that. The breeze when it gets up is very pleasant here. However, the codicil to that is that some of these older cars are going to struggle in the heat of the day, which is going to make the evening plateau races, I think, even more important. I wouldn't be surprised to see one or two guys actually missing some of the races in the heat of the day, particularly for the older machinery.
Yes, interesting thought, because they each of the groups, each of the 6 plateau, and they circulate those 6 plateau 3 times round. Each of them has, broadly speaking, an afternoon session, a night session, and a morning session. So those who don't race tomorrow afternoon early on will race early on, will finish the race on Sunday afternoon. Those who are doing their first session late in the evening will have an opportunity in the morning too. So everybody gets to race pretty much under each of the prevailing conditions, but heat will be an issue for some. Heat will be an issue, I would suggest, as much for the drivers as for the machinery, because remember, these cars aren't fitted with air conditioning. They don't have cool suits that they can plug in. It's going to be mighty hard work, even given that they're only on a 45-minute stint. And there'll be a mandatory pit stop in the middle of that. So a lot of people will take advantage of being able to run 2 drivers, even on a short race like these, because the effort to drive these things at anything like race speed is immense. And the vast majority of the drivers are owner drivers, they're gentleman drivers, and although they may be reasonably fit, they're not professionally fit to race in conditions like these. So people are going to have to take care.
And just thinking about that, how hard are these guys going to be racing? We talked about the show and shine type of event. This certainly isn't that. However, in the back of everybody's mind, particularly perhaps in some of the professional drivers who've been drafted in, is, you know, how much it's worth, the insurance value. I remember Marino Franchitti telling me when he was driving one of Nick Mason's Ferraris, his father-in-law, that instead of putting a lap time out, they did actually put the 7.4 million value out as they hang it over the wall, which was food for thought. So how hard are these guys going to be trying?
They're going to be trying as hard as the owner allows them. It's as simple as that. 1 or 2 I've already seen, and it's something I saw many years ago, which has always tickled me. On the rev counter, instead of just having the telltale and a marker as to where the red line is, there's a big sticker with a pound sign on it. And if you go beyond that, you're going to be costing big time, so don't. But within those constraints, no, people are there to race and they're there to enjoy themselves. Ask Adrian Newey. On one of the previous visits I had here, he wrapped a very, very, very expensive car considerably. So, you know, accidents do happen. This is racing. Racing's a dangerous sport and things do go wrong. On cars like this, at this vintage, things break. That's the sad truth of it. But people are going to, they're not going to be racing at 100%. Not unless they're seriously confident about what they're sitting in. And with the age of these things, there has to be a degree of common sense built in.
That said, the preparation values of things around here are as good, if not better, than they were when the cars were new. Just to finish off with a very quick word just about the social side of this, because it's quite clear that this is not just about the racing. We've said the racing is relatively serious, but just in 30 seconds or so, the social side.
The social side started in 1923. There has always been a village within the Le Mans 24-hour circuit. It's a tradition that started from the very first 24 hours and it's maintained all the way through. The feeling already building up here on Friday afternoon is that we've got an event. It's not just, as you say, a race, it's an event, and it's, as the June 24 hours is nowadays, it's a place that people come not just for the racing but for the ambience, for the atmosphere, for the boutiques and the little stalls and the merguez and everything that goes with it, and that's why they're here.
Graham Tyler from RadioLeMans.com, thank you very much for joining us. Well, there we are, we're off and underway here on Motors TV for the Le Mans Classic 2010, and we'll have more when we come back.
The Le Mans Classic with Richard Mille and EFG Bank.
Le Mans Classic, powered by RadioLeMans.com.
These days, there's no car constructor more visible than Renault in motor racing. The French brand is active in grassroots competition all the way to the pinnacle of the sport, Formula One. Be sure to join MotorsTV for the next weekend meetings in the Hungaro Ring. That's later tonight from 6:50 p.m. The AutoGP series is a new and exciting open-wheel category featuring a mix of veterans and up-and-coming talent. Round 4 from the once home the French Grand Prix Manly-Corzed live on MotorsTV. And this Thursday, July the 14th, comes a start-to-finish replay beginning at 9 p.m.
Motors TV is also on YouTube, an ever-expanding list of videos from all the classes covered on the high-speed television channel. Log on to youtube.com/motorstelevision and don't forget to subscribe in order to be warned of any new content. Be sure not to miss a single stage or any of the sure-to-be spectacular onboard coverage and driver reactions from Day 2 of the first asphalt rally of the 2010 World Rally Championship. It's Rally Bulgaria and it's right here on Motors TV. Tonight is going to be a maximum attack evening beginning at 10:20 thanks to the high-speed television network Motors TV.
Nowhere else but on Motors TV are you, the racing enthusiast, treated to such a wide variety of your favourite sport, and this Monday, July the 12th, is no exception. The action gets underway at 7:15 with round 2 of the FIA European Drag Racing Championship from Alastaro in Sweden, and then at 8:10 it'll be round 4 this year's Super 1 Rotax Series Karting Championship from Buckmore Park.
The Le Mans Classic with Richard Mille and EFG Bank.
Le Mans Classic, powered by RadioLeMans.com.
TV at the Classic Le Mans meeting for 2010. I'm John Hindorf, welcome back. And 3 guests with me in this part of the show. And perfectly, I think, illustrating the eclectic nature of car and the sort of people who comes to Le Mans. Starting next to me, Darren Cox is one of the headmen from Nissan, one of our sponsors this weekend. They've put their name on one of the plateaus, one of the grids of cars. Everybody should recognise 5-time Le Mans winner Derek Bell, and alongside him, I know that this man is one of your heroes.
Yes, he is.
This is Neil Primrose from Travis, who's competing here at the weekend. And if I might, gentlemen, I'd like to start with Neil, because we're sitting here looking at Derek and thinking this is the reason that we got interested in this type of motor racing in the first place.
Definitely. It was probably one of the best eras in sports car racing. I don't think it's a different thing now, that it's not as competitive, etc., but the technological advancement in the cars was so intense, and the cars were so fast, and it was a pre-chicane on the Mulsanne, so it was the epitome, I think, of, you know, the pinnacle moment. It's a bit different now, there's more technology and stuff, but I'm not saying it's not as exciting, but back then it was the real deal, I think.
Did you realise that then, Derek, that you were taking part in what we will look on now as probably the golden era of sports car racing?
not at all, but I think, you know, starting with the 917, although I should say the 512S Ferrari, and then you get in the 917, and of course that era then got dumped by the FIA. They changed the rules, and then suddenly we come back in with the 936, the 956, 962, and Nissans, Toyotas, Mercedes, you know, Mazdas, everything came in that era that you're talking about, and you suddenly realize that it was a heck of an era. I don't think at the time one accepted that it was going to be possibly the greatest era, but I certainly think at that point we realized it was a little bit special. And let's not forget that, of course, we raced the same cars in America as well. Yeah. So it really was a worldwide series, and incredible when you think about it.
And Darren, coming on to you, it's easy for us as enthusiasts to forget, but Nissan have been around and around with sports cars for a long time. It's 40 years this year since the iconic Nissan Z car made its first appearance. And Le Mans, well, you perhaps haven't had the victory here, but Le Mans has been an integral part of Nissan sports cars plans for many, many years.
Well, as you say, John, 40 years of the Z car with the 240Z. We're here because our customers are here, whether they're in their 240Zs, whether they're in their newer Nissans. That's why we're here, because like these guys, we're enthusiasts, and we love to be here. And as you say, we've got enthusiasts all the way through the business, whether it be in my area or whether it be engineers. And as you say, we had a bit of a holy grail, and Le Mans, for anyone that's got petrol running through their veins, is, as Derek was saying earlier when we spoke before we came on air, is the name for motor racing. And you know, any engineer, whether they're working on you know, a standard road car, or whether they're working on the race program, whether it be at Porsche or whether it be at Nissan, you know, they really hold this in such high regard.
This event, was it a difficult decision, or was it an easy decision for a company, for your company Nissan, to get involved in and put some money behind it and support it? Just behind us here, there's a fantastic display of Nissans going way back the years, just underlining what we've been talking about. But you know, everything has to be justified. So is it a difficult decision for you to get involved in something like this?
No, it's not at all. It's very easy. All I've got to do is take a picture of the car park. Basically, you just see the people that come here. As I say, I came here, the first car I started to follow was a TR4. I come in the car park, you've got modern day 911s, GTRs, everything in between in the eras that we've got, and therefore it's very easy for us to come here. Our customers are here, they're enjoying themselves. We've got a load of customers from our French customers that are driving around the circuit as we speak. They're here, and of course our potential customers are here. They're driving, as I say, modern day 911s, they're driving old TR4s, and we just need to be here, and we need to show what we are, which is a very, very passionate car company, as everybody that's involved in this process is.
And bizarrely, and we didn't work that to happen, 2 GTRs just drove past us as Darren was talking. This event, Derek, it is, I know this is your first time here, mine too. It's always clashed with something else I've been doing. What has struck me immediately, even in the early part of the week, is the size of it. Because I've been to classic events before. Le Mans is always bigger and better and everything else, and this event is exactly the same.
Absolutely. I mean, what you have to remember is how big Le Mans is in its entirety. You know, it's an 8-mile track, and you mustn't sort of forget that. So to start with, it has a great asset. It has this incredible Mulsanne straight, which, as you said just now, is, you know, we've got a couple of chicanes in there now, but you always conjured up that 245, 248 mile an hour straight line speed, and you know, 2 men doing it. And then you come here for an event like this, and you see the people that come along and the cars all out in the paddocks, and you go, my goodness, you know, there can't be anybody left anywhere else with a special car. They're all here, and I think that's what makes it, is everybody's passion for this place, Le Mans.
I think the racing starts, actually, John, on the way down on the A16 from Calais at the toll booths. I'm sure that people line up and actually try and race each other off the toll booths.
Have a drag race off the toll booth.
I must just say one thing. What I will say is that every Brit I saw driving drove really sensibly. Yeah. I tell you what, all the way down, I was the only one going fast, I have to admit.
And I bet you had a foreign registered car as well. Neil, you've got a couple of cars that you've got hold of and you've brought here. Your interest in motorsport has been clearly with your music, but you've been able to indulge yourself in that. I know that you have had a passion for Porsches in the past. You had a couple of really nice Lolas here this weekend.
Yeah, we have a Lola T212, which back in '71 was around at the time Derek was driving for Abarth. It was one of the 2-litre cars that was a real, you know, contender. And then the year after, there was a cracking design, the 290, which was involved with John Barnard, Patrick Head. Instead of the short wheelbase.
They went on to be actually quite useful.
They were quite good, yeah. Those guys knew what they were doing.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they were very clever men. So I've got those 2 cars here, and I'm sharing with a friend, David Gavercall. and we're going to give it a shot, you know, and see what happens.
The great thing about this race and this track, Derek, has always been that a good little one has always got a chance against some of the bigger ones.
Well, absolutely, and particularly this weekend. But I mean, historically, you always did have a chance, as long as it was run well and you're intelligent and drove it as a, you know, a long-distance race. And I mean, even for you now, I tell you one thing. I mean, you're going to be out there in this heat. Just a lift on the straight and back on again halfway down between the chicanes just helps get the lubrication going a little bit more, and that's why over many years we blew up, because it was, of course, we went straight the whole way down. So a little lift just once or twice on that little straight just helps the engine, you know.
Is it going to be any better for the guys, Derek, that have got open top cars? I wouldn't like to be in a closed top car today, I have to say.
I'm not keen on the closed top cars, and certainly in this heat, but we used to put up with it, and they go, oh, what about the driver? Don't worry about the cooling, stick him in, shut the door and send him off. But the problem with the open car is the fact that, of course, there's that big area where you're sitting which sucks all the heat from every orifice, the radiator, turbochargers out through that gap where you're sitting. So it goes up in here. And I remember at Daytona when we had a similar thing, the windscreen, the windows broke. It was actually burnt, the heat burnt our lips. So you have to contend with that. I mean, he'll know he's done the race tomorrow, believe me.
How long have you raced tomorrow? It's about an hour, isn't it? Just under.
We've got 3-hour races, but we're sharing both cars, so in actual fact it's kind of 2 half-hour stints, well, in each car, so 6 races actually.
But the joy of what happens here is you do get to race in the dark, don't you?
Yeah, it's weird. I think it's going to be I've been here before in the dark and it's lovely. I'm not scared of it. I think it's quite a nice time to be out. It's a bit cooler. But there is quite a differential in the speed I've noticed the last time. So, yeah, I'm going to have to be cautious, really.
Just coming back up to date with Nissan, Darren, you guys are here supporting this event, but you have also been supporting the grassroots of motorsport with the Nissan GT Academy, which over the last couple of years have taken someone who's an armchair enthusiast in every sense of the word, in the sense of being a gamer from PlayStation, and put them into a sports car environment. And you've actually discovered a couple of decent talents here.
Well, yes. In fact, we've got our French winner from this year is actually here leading out our customers around the circuit. And yeah, as you say, basically we had a crazy idea that, you know, a lot of what we see here today isn't accessible to us. I mean, I now annoyed myself. I didn't take more notice at school in my music lessons, and unfortunately I haven't got 2 Lolas. But you know, we know the amount of money it costs for young guys to go through karting and to go through the junior formulas, and we just thought, hey, our cars are very accessible. What can we do? How can we get? Because we're, as I say, we're all enthusiasts. You know, we would love to be out there as well. How can we get someone that hasn't got that backing, hasn't got the chance to be a karter? How can we get them into motorsport? And we came up with the idea. We work with PlayStation and their associated companies quite a lot. Indeed, Polyphony designed the central control unit on the GTR, and we went to them and said, hey, we think we can find a gamer using the skills they've already got, the reaction time and the you know, the actual knowing of the racing lines. We think we can take one of these guys and we can make him into a racing driver. So this year we had 1.4 million people enter the competition online. We narrowed that down to 19 people. We took them up to Silverstone. We gave them an intensive 5 days. A few of them still bear the scars of the assault course. So we did everything you would normally do for a normal drive. We had fitness tests, we had medical tests, we had top instructors there testing them. A lot of them are actually racing here today. So, you know, proper industry people. We had Johnny Herbert on the judging panel. We had Eddie Jordan involved, and it was a fantastic experience. And we found a really good racing driver, and he's currently racing in a 370Z in the GT4 Cup, and he's learning a lot, as we can put it like that. But last year's winner, who was a Spaniard by the name of Lucas Ordonez, he was second in the Drivers' Championship. So you know, racing against some pretty hardened and good professionals, he's shown them that we can take someone, as you say, from the sofa all the way through to being a racing driver.
You've seen your boy Justin, of course, Derek, come through, and I was here when he won the GT1 championship here, the GT1 race here a few years ago. You've seen that, you've gone through that as a racing dad, and this weekend you're going to have to go through it again because Sebastian is turning out this weekend, I hear.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite amusing, actually. Patrick Peter knew that I was coming here, and so back at Sebring he said, how about Sebastian drives in, who's 11, or 10 then, would he like to drive in the little big man's thing? So quite naturally I said, wow. So we got home and he said, oh, we can drive the Porsche. Back home in England I had this 936 Porsche, which is a quarter-size replica of the car that Jackie and I won in 81, the Jules car, this beautiful car. So he got it out of the garage, he's driven it up and down the farm lanes a few times over the years, put it through a few bushes, and we understood it would do 36 miles an hour. So we had it all tidied up by the guy on the beach in the garage down there, Dave, and we took it up to Goodwood on Tuesday night, and it was doing 52 miles an hour, which was a little bit worrying.
Excellent.
But I could hardly keep up in the little Audi I was in, and he didn't. He thought it was wonderful. Anyway, we've got the car here. They'll only be doing 25 miles an hour, but
that's what you think.
Is your restrictor on it? Eh?
I'm the restrictor, but I have to say he loves it. You know, so I think it's great for all these kids to have a go. I think 65 or yeah, that's right. Sebastian's 64, and there's 65 cars in this group.
Right, we've got a couple of minutes left. Darren's already talked about seeing the TR4 that reinvigorated his fun thinking about motor racing and generally in motorsport. What have you seen, Neil, around here, apart from your cars that you'd most like to go home in?
There's a very rare Ligier here called the GS3, and that car is going to be very, very, very fast round here. I think it's probably the real contender in Plateau 5. Yeah. So yeah, keep your eyes on that.
Derek, there's a few of your old cars here, but what have you seen that you could actually take home and live with, do you think?
There's far too many. I just saw the Ferrari 275 GTB4 going by that was my dream car as a kid. I mean, just nearly every other car is something you'd want to take home. I mean, there's 962s, there's a Jag I drive at the Goodwood Tourist Trophy. There's just so much here, varied cars. And when, I did race for 40 years, so I did see a fair cross-section of the best era of racing, possibly sports car racing. So any of them would do me just fine.
Okay, that seems right. What was the worst car you ever drove?
Techno Formula 1.
Bang, straight back. No thought about it at all. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed.
Cheers.
It's been absolutely great. Neil Primrose, Derek Bell and Darren Cox from Nissan. I'm going to give you the very final word here. When are we going to see Nissan coming back into sports car racing? And we've got 40 seconds for you to tell me and tell the viewers what they all want to hear.
Well, as you know, we're already in the GT1 World Championship. We came second last weekend at Paul Ricard. We're second in the Teams Championship. As I say, we're already, as you say, involved in the GT4 Championship. I think.
When are you coming back here to race?
When am I coming back, or when an Nissan coming back? I'm hoping to run the clock down, John. It's something we're always looking at.
The question is what he's saying. Would you answer?
It's something any sports car manufacturer looks at very seriously, and with the American Le Mans series as well, it makes perfect sense.
Darren, thank you very much indeed. Well, there you go, perfect cross-section of the sort of people talking about the sort of cars that you'll see here at Classic Le Mans 2010 here on MotorsTV.
Well, whether it's on the track or off the track, the devil is in the detail. And here at Le Mans, the details have not been spared. The authenticity goes down even to the policeman. Even the transport is of the right age. Nothing has escaped. This is our MotorsTV set. Yes, really. Everything there, right down to the transport for the drivers.
Ma fonction, c'est de faire le taxi pendant 4 jours.
My function, simply says, I'm pretty much just a taxi for the drivers, for the clubs, backwards and forwards to Camping U, taking people where they need to go. It's a bit of a present for me, he says. Obviously, there have to be parallels drawn with Goodwood in the UK, which is another must-see event for classic car enthusiasts. But how do the ACO view that very British event? Here's Jean-Claude Plassard. He says Goodwood is just 2 races in the year. It's a wonderful place with great organisation. English people love those kind of races, and about a quarter of the spectators are dressed up like in olden times, and they're a fantastic contribution to the show. Now, he says, I don't think we're quite at that level in France yet. Goodwood's a different place, but with Patrick Peter, we didn't really want to make another Goodwood. What we want to make is a Le Mans Classic. with modernism and with vintage. You can find a different atmosphere here than at Goodwood. Two different events, room for both races. We both have our aims, and I respect everybody.
Chacun a son domaine et moi je respecte tous les concurrents.
Such a big part of what is here on the huge infield are the car clubs. Over 7,000 different vehicles like these beautiful Daimler Darts parked around the Bugatti circuit and in the infield. While the atmosphere might be quite relaxed out with the car clubs, it's very different indeed in the paddock. Here everything is taken seriously and everyone is looking for a good result. Car number 65, the Lola T298 from 79, Frederick de Rocha. He's really pleased to be here and he's looking to do well. He tells us, well, like most of the atmosphere, fabulous cars, and this is the most beautiful circuit in the world. Running with cars from the 1970s is incredible. He says, I'm like a fish in water. As a driver, you want to enjoy it, but you also, of course, want to have a good result. I'd like to be in the top 10 of the category. Like to be in the top 10, yes, definitely.
Mon objectif aujourd'hui, il est clair, c'est de mettre la voiture dans le top 10 de notre plateau. C'est-à-dire, j'aimerais qu'on soit dans les 10 premiers. Ça,
yes, we're here to have the best result possible, says Frederick. Over in Henri Pescarolo's pits, he's a 4-time winner, of course, as a driver here. He's running with an Inaltera, the same one that he ran back in 1976. He finished 8th then. And Pesca's telling us he really appreciates this kind of event like Goodwood, like here at the Classic. It's one of the biggest for old cars and collection cars. It's massive. For all those car collectors, being able to run here on the Le Mans circuit is very special. Here I'm back with my Inaltera again. It reminds me very much of when I was young, he says. I'm loving the atmosphere. It's relaxed. Beautiful cars, the public has access to the paddock. You just don't find this nowadays, and it's a really positive thing to go back to this kind of event. Car number 2, the 512 Ferrari BBLM, Paul Knackfield.
It's a really great race, big event, great circuit, great cars, it's fantastic. Well, it's just every 2 years, and every time it gets more and more popular, more and more people, more cars, better cars. It's really, the whole classic racing scene is just getting stronger and stronger.
It's 2 hours now before the first practice and qualifying runs. We've got to get all the drivers together somehow for their driver briefing. They're getting their last instructions here from the course director. Two main aims here, security and fair play.
Fair play.
I'm not going to talk over this bit, just feast your eyes on the cornucopia of beautiful cars that are ready to go out and practice on the circuit. Now here's something very special. This is a Jaguar E2A from 1960. It's the only one in existence, and the man who owns it is an Austrian, Stefan Ziegler. It hasn't been on the track for 50 years, but it's in the pit lane at Le Mans this weekend.
The car's a Jaguar 1960, and it's a very one-off special car. It has been built by Jaguar factory as a works car, but it was never entered as a works car. And it was actually the first prototype of all the E-types ever built. So this is why the car is called E2A. The first one was E1A, which is an aluminum first one E-type, And then they built the second one, which was E2A, which is the only surviving car of its kind. And afterwards they launched a very successful and well-known E-Type series a year later in Geneva. It's a very special moment to be out on the track. The car was in Le Mans with Dan Gurney and Walter Hansken in 1960, so it's exactly 50 years back now, and now it's out again, so we are really excited to have the car out. Unfortunately, the car wasn't behaving the way it should, so it was misfiring a bit, and we're not quite sure what's happening at the moment. But it's really great to be here, yeah, so very fantastic.
Well, half a century of sitting around didn't do the Jaguar very much good. Completed only a handful of laps. Its best time in 9 minutes or 2, which I'm afraid put it solidly at the bottom of its category. But there's time for it to improve. So out in qualifying, and some early results coming through for you. In plateau number 5, the fastest car was the Ligier. There it is. That's Jacques Nicolet and Jean-Marc Lucot. In plateau number 3, the Ferrari 246S, Gregor Fisken and Harry Leventis. And in plateau number 4, Christian Gleisel had the best time in a GT40 ahead of a Ferrari driven by Claudia Hurtgen. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our first look at Le Mans Classic 2010 here on MotorsTV. Don't forget, there's plenty more to come right across the weekend and through Monday and Tuesday as well. I'm John Hindhaugh. The weather's great, the cars are better. Join us again for more Classic Le Mans on MotorsTV.
The Le Mans Classic with Richard Mille and EFG Bank.
Le Mans Classic, powered by RadioLeMans.com.